You were raised to believe love is supposed to be honest, clear, and emotionally open. That if you're sincere, if you wear your heart on your sleeve, express your intentions, and communicate exactly how you feel, a woman will appreciate you. More than that, she see your authenticity, respect it, and reciprocate. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Most men don't want to admit. It doesn't work like that. Not with women. Not with attraction. Because while logic tells you clarity, builds connection, female psychology responds to something deeper. Something more primal - uncertainty. It feels wrong to hold back. It feels like lying, like playing games, like manipulating someone into liking you. But when you understand what actually pulls a woman in emotionally, you realize it's not full transparency that creates obsession, it's the lack of it. Women fall for the man they can't fully figure out. The man who gives just enough to keep her curious, but never too much to feel secure. The moment she feels emotionally certain, the tension dies. The mystery evaporates. And without that tension, there's no gravity pulling her back in. This is why women get bored with the guy who's too available, too emotionally expressive, too easy to understand. It's not because kindness or affection are because there's no suspense, no emotional edge, no internal questions to answer. And without those unanswered questions, her imagination goes dormant. Attraction lives in the mind first, and her imagination is the bridge between curiosity and desire. When you say exactly what you mean, exactly when she expects it, you satisfy her need for safety, but you kill her need for you. Women don't fall for comfort, they fall for the journey to comfort. They fall for the emotional friction, the back and forth, the uncertainty of does he want me? They fall during the nights they lie awake analyzing your silence, wondering why you didn't reply, wondering what you're thinking. It's in that wondering where her feelings take root, and those roots grow deep. Because they weren't handed to her, they were earned. So when you're too emotionally available, too soon, you don't look sincere. You look desperate. You don't seem strong. You seem eager. Not because there's anything weak about emotion, but because it was offered without her investment. She didn't earn your vulnerability, so she doesn't value it. It's not that women don't want emotional connection, they do, but they don't want it handed to them like a brochure. They want to discover it. They want to unlock it piece by piece, slowly, with effort. That effort creates emotional ownership, and ownership builds attachment. What feels wrong? Being silent, holding back, delaying your words isn't manipulation. It's wisdom. It's awareness of how attraction actually forms. You're not being dishonest, you're being deliberate. Because women don't crave the guy who spills his soul at hello. They crave the man who feels deeply but holds it tightly. The one who lets her earn access to his truth. And once she earns it, that truth becomes unforgettable because she worked for it, and what she works for, she never lets go of easily. You think closeness builds connection, that being present, responsive, and emotionally available will make her feel secure and deepen the bond. But there's a hidden trap in always being there. What starts as attention becomes expectation. What starts as affection becomes routine. And when your presence is guaranteed, your value begins to fade, not because you're doing something wrong, but because you're always there. Women don't chase what they already have. They chase what they're afraid to lose. And that fear, that tension, that's what keeps attraction alive. That's not about ghosting or playing games. It's about creating space, emotional space, psychological distance. Because the man who doesn't rush to reply, who doesn't rearrange his schedule for her, who pulls back just enough when she leans in, that man holds her attention. Not because he's cold, but because he has boundaries, a purpose, a life she has to fit into, not dominate. And that shift in energy from availability to selectiveness changes everything. Women don't become obsessed with the man who texts good morning every day. They become obsessed with the one who disappears for a bit, then returns with mystery. The one who isn't reactive to her every mood. The one who seems centered no matter what she throws at him. His absence creates room for her curiosity, and curiosity is the seed of emotional attachment. You don't need to be distant all the time, but you do need to balance your presence. If she never has a chance to miss you, she never gets the space to desire you. The pullback, the unpredictability isn't about cruelty, it's about value. Because when you remove yourself with intention, you send a powerful message. My time is earned. And the moment she feels she has to earn it, the game changes. Now she's invested. Now she's chasing. Vulnerability has its place, but only when it's earned. When you reveal everything too soon, you remove the most powerful element of masculine energy, mystery. Women aren't drawn to what they fully understand. They're drawn to what they can sense, but not completely grasp. When a man speaks in half-truths, when his eyes suggest more than his words reveal, when he shares just enough to provoke interest, but holds back the core, that's when she becomes intrigued. That's when her emotions engage. It's not about deception, it's about restraint. It's about allowing her to wonder. Because in wondering, she invests. In guessing, she commits. She starts piecing you together, projecting fantasies, creating emotional stories that pull her deeper. And once she's deep in that curiosity, she's already emotionally attached, not to who you are, but to the version of you her imagination is building. And that imagined version is far more powerful than anything you could have told her outright. When you give her everything up front, your past, your pain, your dreams, your inner world, you rob her of the climb. She didn't get to peel you open. She didn't get to earn her way in. And what is given freely is rarely cherished. But when you reveal yourself in fragments slowly, carefully, intentionally, every detail becomes sacred. She feels chosen, not just included. Mystery doesn't mean being emotionally unavailable. It means being emotionally disciplined. You feel, but you don't bleed on her. You care, but you don't announce it too soon. And in that quiet tension, in that masculine pause, she leans in. She wants to know more. She wants to uncover you. And that desire to uncover, that's what forms the bond. Not the facts, not the stories, but the silence between them. When she disrespects you, your instinct may be to explain yourself, to defend, to clarify, to argue your side. You want her to understand your intent, your value, your boundaries. But here's the reality. Women don't respect words, they respect energy. They respond not to what you say, but to what you do when your standards are tested. And nothing hits harder than silence. When you walk away without flinching, without drama, without explaining yourself, you communicate something far more powerful than a speech ever could. I don't tolerate disrespect. I don't need to be understood. I don't chase. A woman doesn't bond to a man who lectures. She bonds to a man who leads. And leadership is calm. It's grounded. It doesn't react emotionally to chaos, it stays composed through it. When she spirals, when she tests, when she throws emotional daggers, the man who stands still, instead of dancing to her tune, becomes the anchor. He doesn't get pulled into her storm high, lets her burn out and return to his stillness. Most men crumble during a woman's emotional tests. They start apologizing for things they didn't do, just to keep her from leaving. But the man who knows his worth never chases approval. He lets her feel the consequence of her actions. He lets her sit in the silence after she disrespects him. And in that silence, a realization dawns on her. This man has standards. This man can walk away. That realization creates respect. Respect creates submission. And submission is the gateway to feminine surrender. But you'll never get there if you're trying to explain your value. You must embody it. The more emotionally reactive you are, the less masculine you seem. But the more neutral and unshakable you become, the more she trusts you, not just with her body, but with her emotions. The traction isn't built in pace, it's built in tension. It's not the soft, comfortable moments that make a woman fall for you. It's the emotional friction, the not knowing, the quiet pull of uncertainty that keeps her coming back. Not because you're withholding love, but because you're not giving it away carelessly. The man who reveals everything too quickly, who explains his every emotion, who gives constant reassurance, he kills the spark before it can even ignite. Because without mystery, there's no depth. Without emotional contrast, there's no charge. Women don't fall for predictable men. They don't crave the guy who is always there, always texting, always explaining. They crave the man they can't fully label, the one who is warm, then distant, present, then detached. That polarity keeps her emotionally engaged. It makes her analyze every word, every silence, every glance. She begins to live in the tension you create, not confusion without care, but care wrapped in discipline. When a woman says, "I don't know where I stand with him," she's not always complaining. Sometimes she's confessing. She's admitting that you've activated something in her. You've made her think, reflect, chase. And chasing builds emotional investment far more than being handed affection on a silver platter. The men she remembers, the ones she obsesses over, always the ones who loved her most. They're the ones who made her work for it. Not